in this, and what's the next, how does this push the ball forward?
Yeah, I think the convention for Democrats was effective. I mean, they wanted to come out of here feeling like they had a chance to win. They didn't have a chance to win with Biden. Now they have a chance to win with Harris. So that was mission accomplished on that front. I think on the speech, look, she's gotten much better behind a podium. She used to not be all that great at this. She's an improving person on that front. She delivered from behind the podium last night. She's been doing that since she got into the race. So that was also another box check. She seemed plausible. The speech, I agree with Kate, it did portray her as someone who sounded like a reasonable person. Now, what she did not do was take any amount of responsibility for her current job, which is Vice President of the United States for the last 3.5 years under Joe Biden. There was not an ounce of humility about the inflation gripping the country. She talked about immigration without talking about all the things that happened right up until this border bill that they have hung all their hats on over at the Biden White House. So to me, where the Republicans are going to be headed is all the pablum, all the platitudes, all that aside, you cannot leave the same people in charge. If you believe the country's on the wrong track, if you believe they made all the mistakes on the economy and on immigration, you cannot leave the same people in charge that have run the country off into the ditch. Until she comes up with a good answer for that, which I suspect will have to be litigated at the debate on September 10th, Donald Trump is still in a very good position.
The problem that you have, however, is that respectfully to you and my brother Shemichael, who are oftentimes on that side of the table at this hour, is that you all are more disciplined of a messenger than Donald Trump is. And Donald Trump has an inability at 78 years old to prosecute any message similar to what you're talking about. And we can debate the merits of that. And I would love to debate the merits of immigration with you, or inflation with you, or economic policy with you. But Donald Trump, and one of the things this week showed, Donald Trump's not capable of that. He's a diminished individual, and he also doesn't want to do that because he represents the chaos. He represents many, and I'm sorry, Elliot, he represents many of the things that we're betting the country wants to move away from.
Yeah, and I think your point's well taken, Scott, that by being in power for any number of years, you're holding the bag. The problem with that is that you would be giving the bag back to the person who had the bag before. And part of the message was, do you wish to go back to that chaos and disorder?
It's a
2017.
It's a good question,
yeah.
But people have right now, Donald Trump's more popular than he's ever been.
Correct.
And the view of his presidency is as good as it's ever been. I mean, in some of the polling, he's over 50% in terms of, do you think he did a good job?
Right.
The Biden-Harris results, the job approval of this presidency is still quite low. There is a reason for that. So to me, there's really only one question left to answer in this campaign. Are the American people going to hold her accountable for that? And yes, you're right. But is Donald Trump going to help them reach that conclusion?
But see, that's why I would argue that the way she addressed these things last night was smart. I mean, you're right. She didn't address them in the way that you, as a Republican strategist, would like to see her address them. But she did talk about immigration, and she said, hey, Donald Trump blew up our best option to make progress on this issue. So if you're an independent voter and you're trying to sort out, left from right in this race, you say, oh, well, that seems like actually she's making a good point here. Like it's not that she didn't address these issues. It's that she actually took them on in a way that was smart and on the offensive.
You're asking the independent voters to all get collective amnesia and not remember all of the actions that or inactions that Biden and Harris did or didn't do for 3.5 years leading up to the political fight over the border bill. The reality is everybody believes this administration made the border weaker. This legislative thing is a political argument. And you're asking people to forget that she had the job.
But it's also true that border encounters have dropped since the EU.
Yeah, and
we want to start debating the merits here.
Yeah,
if you want to run your campaign on immigration, go ahead. I wouldn't advise it, but go ahead.
I don't think we want to. I don't want to get into weeds per se, and I'm not asking anyone to have amnesia, but what we are asking people to do is make a choice.
Yes.
And I think that people forget that this is a referendum on both candidates, and oftentimes we like to get up here and prosecute that case in kind of in a vacuum. And look, it's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, period. What we displayed this week is that you have a resounding choice. Do you want to go back to what was chaos, or January 6th, or do you want to go back to the buffoonery? And I think that one of the things that the Democratic Party did this week that was actually so well done was they took away this kind of nemesis feel that Donald Trump had. Like he had a knife to the throat of democracy, and instead they just castigated him as this buffoon, right? He is this bumbling kind of idiot who...
He was small and selfish.
I thought
Michelle Obama painted
unserious man, but serious consequences was,
listen,
was
if a woman...
articulation of that strategy. I thought that was such a good
Oh, and by the way, we were talking about her outfit. She looked absolutely flawless.
She did.
And
The
she
navy was
beautiful.
Oh.
And if any beautiful woman looks in the camera and calls Bakari sellers unserious, I'm going to have to reevaluate my entire life.
On the image question.
What we just saw is a prime example of how difficult it is for Republicans to effectively attack Kamala Harris. No matter how hard they try to downplay her and her campaign, they just can't seem to land a solid hit. In this case, that GOP strategist attempted to criticize Harris by claiming she didn't take responsibility for the current administration's challenges. But the pushback that he faced from the rest of the panel made it clear that this line of attack is weak and unconvincing. The reality is that Kamala Harris has proven herself to be a strong presence in the political arena. And she's not just holding her own against Donald Trump, she's also effectively countering the narratives that Republicans try to push. The strategist's attempt to diminish her impact only served to highlight her strengths. It's becoming increasingly clear that the usual GOP talking points just simply don't stick when it comes to Harris. Her ability to address the issues on her own terms and turn the conversation in her favor is something that Republicans are struggling to counter. This segment also shows the broader challenge for the GOP as they head into the next election cycle. The more that they try to undermine her, the more that they expose the weaknesses in their own arguments. It's almost as if every attempt to bring her down only reinforces her position and makes the Republicans look like they're grasping at straws. And let's be honest, the Republican strategist who tried to go after Harris in the segment clearly regretted it. His criticism was met with such strong resistance that it became obvious that his attack backfired. And by the end of the discussion, it was clear that attempting to paint Harris in a negative light only served to solidify her reputation as a strong, capable leader. This moment is a reminder that attacking Kamala Harris without any real claims or criticism is a losing strategy that Republicans might want to reconsider if they hope to gain any traction going forward.